Hey there guys, and I'm going to be playing Bloodborne, and the reason for that is that I heard recently that a Dark Souls 1 remaster is going to be coming out pretty soon. So I actually went back to start playing Bloodborne again, and I finished the DLC because I actually stopped playing the DLC. And playing it again kind of made me want to record a playthrough, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, this is going to be a pure arcane playthrough, which honestly I didn't see very many playthroughs that were pure arcane just from searching it on YouTube. So it is kind of interesting. If it's your first time playing, I wouldn't really recommend it because you need to know. It's not like super like you need to know everything about the game, but it helps if you know where certain things are. It makes it a lot easier. So we're pretty much just going to start here. I'm going to probably just skip all the cutscenes and stuff like that. But the origin I'm going to pick is Cruel Fate because that starts with the highest arcane. And since we don't need Blood Tinge, it's actually at the lowest it can possibly be. So Cruel Fate is good for this. So the one thing about arcane, as soon as we start up here, is it doesn't have a lot of weapon variety unless you go sort of a hybrid build. So the starting weapons that we start off with, we'll probably be using them for the entire game, which can be a bit boring. If you do want more weapon variety, a quality build is generally better, which is strength and skill. And then you can pretty much use every weapon in the game. But arcane has some other elements that make it interesting. And I'll take off the hood because I don't like how it looks. So this is my guy, old grizzled bastard. Yeah, so the game is a few years old, so I am going to kind of rush through the dialogue and the story because anyone who's interested probably played it before. No, I don't know. Maybe people haven't. It is only on PS4. So the thing about this guy is you can actually kill him pretty easily if you just backstab him by holding down R2 for a visceral attack. And that way you don't die from the wolf your first time through, which is nice. I mean, you don't get anything extra from it, but yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, there's a few things about arcane builds that does kind of suck. The weapon variety is one thing. Another thing is that if you do want to do a bunch of like parrying and visceral attacks, generally they're not very good for that because the physical damage gems will do a lot more, and you need good skill to do a lot of damage as well. And obviously, you're not going to be raising skill at all because we're gonna probably be heading up to 99 arcane. Because arcane is pretty much the only stat that really scales well past 50. Everything else seems to hit a cap around then, and it's not really worth it raising past then. So we're going to hit the lantern here. I'll talk about what's good with arcane, but I'll just kind of generally explain some things that you might find more difficult. So there is a few bosses where visceral attacks work really well on, and you may struggle with them more. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is, quite a lot of what you're using is going to be using bullets, and potentially also using blood bullets by pressing up on the D-pad. You'll be doing that a lot. So if you want to do parrying as well, you're probably going to have less bullets because you're going to be using the hunter tools. We'll get to those eventually. And the other thing is, arcane kind of has a bit of a tough time starting out. It's not too bad. We'll get a weapon pretty soon after the second boss, an elemental weapon. The way it works, I'll explain more when we actually get there, how elemental damage works, because that's one of the things that is a little bit confusing if you're playing through for the first time. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the blood vial off Yosefka. Not that I ever use it, to be honest. I always forget that I have these. And really, Central Yarnum's pretty much going to be the same as it always is. So I took the Saw Cleaver and the Hunter Pistol. The Saw Cleaver is one of the best weapons in the game just because of the DPS that it can do. So obviously I'm going to take that. We're actually going to probably be using the Saw Spear over it. I tried to heal there for whatever reason. We're probably going to be using the Saw Spear instead. The reason for that is against certain enemies you get a serration bonus on the saw weapons, Saw Cleaver and Saw Spear. But you only get that bonus on the transformed state of the Saw Spear. So the bonus is like 20%. It's actually really good as well. And fire does a lot of damage to beasts as well, so you actually get a lot of damage from a fire serrated weapon, which is pretty much what we're going to be doing. The thing about arcane is if you want to use the elemental damage, is a lot about it is about exploiting weaknesses. One other thing is molotov cocktails. They scale A with arcane. They're actually really strong at the beginning of the game, and we're going to use a few of them at least. So let's just talk to this guy quickly. So yeah, elemental damage can actually do quite a bit more than physical, even though it kind of the attack rating on the status screen is kind of not accurate. So that would be your right hand weapon 1 attack 92, for example. For the Saw Cleaver I'm just using. Usually that's lower for elemental damage, like you would use on an arcane build compared to just a standard like strength skill build or something like that. But it is kind of deceptive because you do get bonuses from fire damage, serration bonuses, etc. There's also multipliers on certain moves. So like certain moves might do like 1.5 times or whatever. Usually not that high, but yeah. So open this gate. I hate this enemy over here. I'm really bad at killing him as well. Maybe try and parry him. Yeah, there we go. So I'm not the greatest at parrying at all, but we are gonna. I always forget he's immune as he's getting up. So we are going to try backstab to do a bit of parrying, but I'm honestly not very good at it. But we won't need to do too much. So Central Yarnum's pretty much going to be the same as it always would. Pretty much by this point you only have an unupgraded weapon, so more molotovs. I'm just going to try and get every item if I remember where they are. But yeah. So Saw Spear. I might keep the Saw Cleaver for our weapon, because there's 3 elemental types: fire, bolt, and arcane. And the first 2 are generally more useful, especially fire. A lot of enemies are weak to either fire or bolt, so having one of each is recommended. But you can actually get away without having an arcane weapon, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. The other thing about arcane builds is they're actually quite reliant on chalice dungeons, you running chalice dungeons, which I know a lot of people don't like. So if you aren't prepared to do the chalice dungeons, and I'm not going to show the entire thing, I think, unless people really want to see that. I'll show kind of where to grind or where to get interesting things in the chalice dungeons when I get to them. But if you're not prepared to do the chalice dungeons, then I would say you can do fine with an arcane build, just with the stuff you pick up during the game. But it's so much better if you actually do the chalice dungeons, because you get better blood gems that way. I hate the two sniper guys here. But yeah, we're just R1 spamming our way to victory here. So another attack here is the transform attack. It's actually really good on the saw weapons. It does a lot more damage, as you can see, than just R1 spamming. So like, yeah. But it is a little bit slower. So for these pretty shit enemies, it's fine. I am down there. So there are 10 bloodstones shards that you can get in Central Yarnum total, without picking any up from enemies, but that'll be enough to get your weapon to +2, which is generally enough for the boss we're going to do. We're actually going to skip the very first boss and come back to them when we can absolutely destroy them. Not for any reason, but just because it's quicker and I don't want to bother fighting it. But we are going to have to do it eventually, so. Pebbles. I think you can get a backstab on this guy if you just run up in R2. Yeah. More molotovs. Molotovs are really useful early on. They do more damage because you have higher arcanes, so yeah. And you can combine them with the oil urns I just picked up. I'll put them on the bar as well. For like, I don't know. It seems as though it like doubles the damage. To be honest, the oil urn. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Oh god, the dogs. The worst enemies in the game. You think I'm lying, but honestly, they're so annoying. Oh shit. At least he missed me there. Okay. There we go. So there is a bit of a hidden path here to get the first armor set. I say armor set, but most of the attire is basically cosmetic in this game, so whatever. I'm not gonna bother with those yet. But yeah, one thing that you can do before the first boss is you can get a madman's knowledge down in the sewers, and you can use that and level up before the first boss because you need at least 1 insight before you can level up. And the Madman's Knowledge gives you 1 insight, so you can use that. But it is a little bit hidden, and it's not immediately apparent, so you might miss it. So let's see if we can kill this guy in one combo. Yeah. So you see that I was chaining the transform attacks. They're really good on the saw cleaver. All I'm doing is tapping L1 right here, and it does. I was slightly out of stamina there. Shit. That was my bad. He looks like he has no health at all. I'll take another blood vial. These guys are probably the most dangerous enemy in this first area. Just because, like, they have a combo that I just fell off there. We're okay. Coming down here? You stuck up there? You gonna come down? Seriously, just gonna sit there. Well. Oh, there's the use of molotovs. Hey. No, I learned. Good start, good start. Yeah, so sometimes, yeah. No, it's not that attack. He has one combo that he does that's just brutal. I think it can pretty much insta-kill you at this point. So we pick up the hunter set here, which is so much better than what we have on. So I'll just equip it immediately. The one thing about Bloodborne is the first few areas can be kind of samey on no matter what character you're playing. I'm just getting destroyed by these rats for no reason. So yeah, I mean you get a choice between 3 trick weapons. The threaded cane isn't bad, and the axe is pretty good, and you could potentially take it. I mean it's not a bad weapon. I just don't like it very much. The cane does the least damage, but the whip state is actually pretty good. And that could potentially be one of the weapons that we're using later on at least. So pure arcane is probably one of the best PvE builds, but it's mainly because of the hunter's tools. So you are going to have decent weapons with the elemental damage, but it's not going to be like your main attack or anything like that. You can spam the hunter tools pretty effectively, and a lot of them are extremely useful. So I'm not going to bother with the wolves on the bridge, and that bridge leads over to the first boss over there, which is optional, and I'm going to skip them for now. We need to get this shortcut here. So, getting stuck behind statues. So we're gonna go this way and then head down to where Eileen is. Yeah, but I actually put down Bloodborne for ages. We'll go this way first. I don't know, like I was finding the DLC hard. And one of the things we might do here is we might try to do the DLC early. Like pretty much as soon as we can, because there's a lot of good arcane stuff you can get in the DLC, including blood gems. So it might be a struggle to do, well, maybe like the majority of it, I don't know, but the last boss, quote unquote. Okay. So we'll just unlock the shortcut first. Oh. Alright. Another shard. So we need 8 to get to +2, and then you would need another 8 more to get to +3, but probably not going to get that. So yeah, the blood gem thing, if people don't know about it, is basically gems that you collect that you put in your weapon to enhance its effects. It could be plus physical damage, or in the case of elemental weapons, if you put an elemental gem in a weapon that's purely physical, it will actually convert that weapon to pure elemental, which is nice. And those weapons are generally the ones you want to be using on pure arcane builds. You can, if you're doing like strength arcane, like a hybrid, you can use split damage weapons, and they're generally more effective if you do that. But I haven't really done strength arcane. Okay, down here. So these guys are count as beasts, so I believe that the saw cleaver is doing 20% more damage than them. But in its transformed state, this isn't serrated, while the saw spear that we're gonna get pretty soon is. So I just generally prefer it because of that, but both are fine, to be honest. I might keep the saw cleaver for the bolt weapon, honestly, just because saw weapons are so good. Okay, go talk to Eileen. And I may play Dark Souls 1 Remastered when it does come out. Not sure. It's been a while since I played it, so. Okay. So I'm going to spare people the grinding in Chalice dungeons because it can get pretty ridiculous. to get what you want. Unfortunately, chalice dungeons in this game, most people think they weren't executed very well. I still kind of enjoy them. I don't know. Oops. Didn't even see you there. Okay, around here. These guys I can't seem to quite kill in one combo, although I didn't actually attack at the end there, so maybe I'm wrong about that. Man, that guy's quick. It's just so annoying. Okay. There's his combo there. I think if you get caught in that, it's like 4 hits and you're dead. Okay, so we're gonna take the saw spear and we're gonna upgrade that instead of the saw cleaver, and then we'll take on the boss. So it should be down this way. More rats in here as well. Central Yarnum definitely is one of my favourite areas. Just in like any of the From Software games really, it's just really good. Yeah, no drop. I am playing online here. I don't know if I'll play online in certain areas. Just because it's not really a PvP build, and I also suck, so that's a factor. Although I am gonna have to learn to parry coming up for this boss coming up. We'll see how that goes. And 2 more shards. Ow. Okay. So, one other thing I gotta get is the tiny music box, which does help out on the next boss. It helps a little bit. I forgot about that. There's also some oil urns up here. So, the interesting thing about oil urns as well is they will increase the damage of a next fire hit, and I was curious because I was like, does that include weapons? And yes, it actually does. So if you do have a fire weapon, you can use it with oil urns. It only works for 1 attack, so it's not as useful as you might think, but it does increase the damage of that 1 hit a lot. So now we're going up this ladder here, and in terms of stats, arcane at the start is actually not that important. We're going to be putting most of our points into vitality most likely, and the reason for that is it's very easy to die at the start, and you don't need the arcane early on for the damage at all, pretty much. Molotovs are actually pretty decent, even at 14 arcane. So if you are just starting out trying to do an arcane build, it's actually not that difficult. You don't need to pump your damage early on, basically. So we're mostly going to be going for vitality. Endurance is really not important because we're mostly going to be using fast weapons that don't use a lot of stamina. And strength and skill, we're most likely going to be leaving it base unless I want to use some other weapons. I may potentially want to, but I'm not sure yet.